All right. Welcome in, everybody, to the Garden Report. My name is Jimmy Toscano. I am your host out of the bullpen today. John Zannis can't make it for the post-game show, so it's me. It's Asherrod Blakely in the flesh, live from the TD Garden after the Celtics drop their preseason game to the Toronto Raptors. We did have the graphic up there. What was that final score? It was
125
125 to 119 in overtime. A game that you thought the Celtics had. I think everyone thought they had as that fourth quarter started, but starters came out. The deep bench, we'll call it, the very, very deep bench, a bench that we may not see again, went in the fourth quarter. The Raptors, maybe they were maybe a little Nick Nurse try hard situation there. Raptors kind of kept it going in the fourth, and they took it in overtime. But I think the main takeaways we're going to focus on are probably from the first half more than anything else. So, Sherrod, you were there tonight. Take us through some of the main things you saw with that starting unit.
Well, I think that they're definitely a work in progress, and that's a good thing because they're still really good, and you can see there's plenty of room for them to get better. Jaylen Brown, once again, came out looking really good early on, aggressive, and it looked more like, in addition to him being aggressive, it looked like guys were looking for him. Tatum had his struggles early on. I thought a lot of that had to do with just his shots. I didn't think he took good shots early on, but he eventually got into a rhythm. And the thing I liked about Tatum in this game was even when he wasn't making shots, he was still able to impact the game in terms of his passing and his rebounding. And that has to really become much more part of his package on a night in, night out basis. When shots aren't falling, he needs to get his ass down and get some boards and keep the ball moving, which I thought he did a good job early on. And Malcolm Brogdon off the bench, I mean, to me, he's going to be the linchpin to this team really taking that next step from last season because his playmaking has been so much better than I thought it would be. I knew he could get guys the ball and do those kind of things, but just the way he's getting guys the ball in rhythm, getting it, if they're not catching it in rhythm, they're catching it in a position where they can make a move and finish, or they can make a move and get an open shot. He's done really, really good at that, really throughout training camp so far. So those are my really big takeaways. Everyone else pretty much did what they normally do, but those three guys in particular I thought really stood out in the first half.
Yeah, I want to piggyback on a couple of those points. So with Tatum, I mean, like you said, we're starting to see, or we're seeing him pick up from last season. I think was the first year where we really saw him do other things to affect the game when the shot wasn't falling. 0 for 7 from 3 tonight. There were games the first few years of his career where he would just kind of sulk about it and not really affect the game in any other way. But 10 rebounds tonight, led the team, 4 assists. But like you said, his playmaking is definitely improved on that end. All that being said, of course, you want to see him hit shots. That's why he's out there on the court. He's got to be your leader on the offensive end. But Jaylen Brown, man, I'll say it, he is taking on some additional I guess luggage here on the offensive end early on in the season, or in the preseason. I'm wondering if we're going to see them a little bit more neck and neck when it comes to just leading the team in points. I mean, he's definitely been a lot more aggressive. We've seen all the workout videos, of course, with him in the pool and everything like that, or in the water. I don't know if it's a pool or the ocean, wherever the hell he's been. But
It looked more like an ocean.
yeah, exactly. So it feels like this is a big season for him, right? I mean, for a lot of reasons. Obviously the way things ended last season and the toll that took. But listen, I mean, everyone knows what he's playing for. He's playing for more than just a championship. He's playing for his next max deal, right? So and so far it's looking that way.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about Jaylen, I noticed in this game in particular, there seemed to be more of a conscious effort to get him the ball. And I didn't think that has always been the case. The last couple of years, as we've kind of seen his game expand and grow into him being a really high impact scorer, I thought a lot of that was his own doing. I thought that was a lot of him just kind of taking the onus on himself to go and get buckets. But now it seems that they're doing a much better job of just getting him the ball. And again, I mentioned him earlier, I think Malcolm Brogdon has a lot to do with that.
Yeah.
Malcolm's game is very contagious. He is a guy that wants to get others the ball where they can be effective, but he recognizes there's certain times where he's got to go for his. The feel that he has with this group this early that's been one of the big surprises for me, because again, Malcolm he's a good player, but that doesn't make you a good teammate. That doesn't make you a good fit. But he's been able to be just that. He's been a great fit, a great teammate, and again, his ability to get guys the ball where they can be most effective has been really refreshing. And frankly, I think it gives the Celtics a dynamic to their overall team that's going to be very difficult, I think, for opponents to deal with.
It seems like Brogdon's exactly what they need out there at certain points. And not to say that, guys like Marcus Smart can't provide, facilitating and all that stuff, but they're almost like the yin and the yang with the way that they play their game sometimes. Malcolm, he kind of has a little bit more, I think, tempo to his game. He can kind of pace it a little bit differently, slow the guys down, get them into their sets, find guys in like you said, in rhythm and stride, and kind of set the tone that way. Marcus Smart's going to, he's a ball of energy. He can, he's going to get the ball moving up the court. He's going to make that hustle play and all those things. So I like the dynamic between those two. I don't think they're going to have any issue coexisting, like some people were kind of wondering before the season starts here. And I think Brad Stevens, he knew who he was acquiring off the court too. I think it was pretty well known amongst around the NBA that, Malcolm Brogdon is, a veteran. He's a very well-respected player. He's mature. And he's been bitten by the injury bug, right? The last few seasons, he's got a lot to talk about. Guys who have a lot to play for. He's trying to lose that label that he's injury prone, right? And he's a player that when he came into this league as a rookie, he already looked like an established vet, and that was one of the things that drew a lot of teams to him, is that he can come in right off the bat and help a team win. So, a few years into his NBA career now, he's showing exactly that. And I think he's going to be huge for the Celtics team, provided he can stay healthy. Whether he's starting, whether he's coming off the bench, there's just so many things that he can do. And, it's just a player that's the player that you didn't have last year, right? I mean, that's the main difference between this year's team and last year's team, is that extra guy that can come in and really give you pretty much whatever you need.
Yeah. And you saw it in this game, Marcus Smart looked a lot more like the Marcus Smart of old. And that is a guy that's going to just absolutely be a pain in your ass defensively. Yeah. And if he gives you something offensively, great, but he's going to make your life a living hell on the defensive end of the floor. And I thought he did a really good job. I mean, I don't think it's a coincidence that the best scorer on Toronto's roster is a guard by the name of Fred VanVleet, who had 7 points and was 3 for 12 shooting. And Marcus had a lot to do with that. And that's why I think the Malcolm Brogdon, Marcus Smart tandem can work, because if you allow Marcus just to be an untamed defensive demon and not have to worry about playmaking, not have to worry about shot making, just worry about the thing that you do exceptionally well. Mm-hmm. Malcolm can do a lot of that playmaking for the team. He is a better scorer than Marcus also. So that's why I think it's a great 1-2 punch. And Malcolm, defensively, I think he's better than what we've seen. He's a great positional defender. I notice he tends to consistently be in the right spot, but he's not reaching. He's not trying to get a steal. He maybe will draw a charge every now and then, but he's just a really solid defender, and he's a smart, heady defender. He knows he doesn't have, the Marcus Smart-like defensive instincts and things like that, but he's smart enough to be where he's supposed to be and make sure that more than anything else, he makes sure that he's that body between his opponent and the rim. He's very good about making sure that there's some distance, that he's that barrier. He doesn't block shots or anything like that, but that's okay. He's a really solid positional defender, which allows Marcus to go ahead, like I said, become an exceptional defensive pain in the ass.
Where does that leave Derrick White? We've talked a lot about Smart. We've talked a lot about Brogdon. Celtics had added Derrick White to this team last year in a big trade in the season. I think most would say probably hasn't quite lived up to the expectations so far. I mean, that's to put it lightly. How does Brogdon change Derrick White's role? Does it change it at all? Does it make White more expendable? Does it make what's talking about dynamics? Where do you see White fitting in here with this team?
Well, I think with Derrick, I think he's starting to figure out exactly what he needs to do. I don't think they necessarily knew how to utilize him earlier. This year, he's basically playing a little bit more off the ball. I think they're looking for him to be a little bit more of maybe a hockey assist guy who can occasionally knock down shots. I thought it was really telling that he was 2 for 3 from 3-point range. And there was another 3 that he hit that was waved off because there was a call made before, right as he launched it against the Celtics. So I think Derrick's going to be fine. I think he gives him another option. He gives him another multi-positional player out there who can really play the 2-3, and in small ball lineups could potentially play some 4 defensively. And that, to me, I think for the Celtics, that's the one thing. If there's one thing you can take away from last year's run, it's good to have options. And
Right.
your options don't have to always look the same or play the same. Everyone has different strengths and weaknesses, and certainly with Derrick, he's not the greatest shooter in the world, but his versatility as a defender and playmaker is something that can benefit the Celtics. And this was a solid game for him. It wasn't a great game, but it was a solid game. And he's a
Right.
guy that, again, I do think that over the course of the season, there are going to be nights where he's going to will you to victory. And it's not going to be a ton of nights. But when the margin of success and playoff seeding is going to be as thin as I believe it'll be this year, his great games might be the difference between you getting the number 2 seed versus the number 4 or 5. And so that's, to me, that's why he has value. You're not counting on him to be great every night, but every now and then he can be great. On the nights when he's not, he needs to be solid. And then tonight was a solid night for him.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you look at where the team was going into half, a solid double-digit lead. I thought played just as strong in that third quarter. There was a lot of things to like. We'll talk about the fourth quarter. We have to. I mean, this is a game recap now with about 7 minutes left in the fourth. Celtics lineup is Justin Jackson, Sam Hauser, Broderick Thomas, our guy Kevin Gelly, and Peyton Pritchard. And the S hit the F, and you know what that stands for. And I think anyone who watched that game, it was kind of funny because typically you would be ripping your hair out at a loss like this, but because it's preseason, because you see the players that you saw in the game, you knew that Celtics weren't going to just go ahead and put the starters back in the game just to get this win. So you kind of take it with a grain of salt. Of course, you want to see that bench unit try to close things out. You got a guy like Hauser in there, you have a guy like Pritchard in there. What'd you see from those two guys? Because those might be the only two guys out of that group that we're going to see later on this season, I would imagine. So any positives to take out of that? I didn't necessarily think – I mean, I thought Pritchard had a pretty bad game, to be completely honest. He was a minus 25, and maybe it was some of the players he was with out there. But I just thought that, it's pretty self-explanatory if you watch the end of that fourth quarter in the overtime there. Nobody could get a shot to fall.
I would slightly disagree with that, only because the one guy who did have shots falling, I didn't think they did a good enough a job down the stretch.
Hauser?
In the fourth quarter. Or Hauser. Hauser's shooting damn near 67% from three-point range in the preseason. And the thing that he showed tonight was he's more than just a three-point sniper. That three-point play he converted with a minute 11 to play in regulation.
That was nice.
He put him up. That was nice, and that wasn't the first time in this game that he put it on the floor and was able to do some work in the paint. And that, to me, is why he's going. You're going to have to play him because he has the ability to give you something off that bench. And when you got a playmaker like Malcolm and a sniper like Hauser coming off the bench, those two guys can help you. Can basically give you a little something when you have Jalen and or Jason on the bench. That's what this, again, as I mentioned earlier, you got to have options. You have to have guys who can give you different things. And right now, if you look at this roster, there is no better shooter on this team than Sam Hauser. And I don't even think it's even close. And I'm talking about just flat out can make shots. I'm not talking about put it on the floor, pull up, and all that other stuff.
Right.
Just make shots. I think he's the best.
Well, this is what Zannis is hot on right now, and if he was on the show, he'd be screaming about it right now. We heard about the legend of Hauser many points last season, right? He's shooting the lights out in Maine. He's like, and there's a lot of Celtics fans, diehard Celtics fans who were screaming, Hauser can play, put Hauser, and Celtics never did it, right? And they needed shooting many times. And the question is, how much better really could he have gotten from last year? I mean, he was a great shooter last year. He's still a great shooter now. And he's not, and John's point is this, he's not killing them on the defensive end either. So why couldn't he get burned last season? And basically what you're telling me is that we should expect to see, we should expect to see Hauser minutes as we enter this season here.
Well, yeah, with Danilo Gallinari's injury, I think that pretty much, opened the door and then some for Sam to get minutes. I think even if Danilo were healthy, they'd find a way to get Sam on the floor. But back to your original question about him not playing last year, he wasn't ready. I mean, there was no one within that organization second-guessing themselves about Sam Hauser. because as good a shooter as he may be in an open gym, and as good a shooter as he may be in an occasional 5-on-5, when he got a chance to play, he didn't light the world on fire. Tonight, he made his first 3 threes. That's how you get minutes. If you are a guy that's getting on the floor and you know going in you're going to get limited minutes, you have to waste no time in making an impact. Tonight was a great example of how you can basically force them to play you. He made his first 3 shots. If you're a sniper and they're leaving you wide open, you make them pay. That's exactly what he did. So I understand the thinking behind, what if he played more last year, then how much better they'd be? But he wasn't ready because when he got his opportunities, he did not make the most of it. This year, he's doing that. And I think last season was a bit of a kind of a wake-up call of sorts. But what Matt Ryan did in Summer League while Sam was hurt, I think that was the big-time wide. I'm like, yo, when I get back out here, I got to do what I'm paid to do. I mean, they're guaranteeing me, for a couple years here, they're investing in me, and they're only going to be comfortable with that unless I do one thing well, and that's make shots. And that's what he did. Now, you had mentioned Pritchard earlier. I didn't think he played a good game either. I didn't. I haven't seen the kind of growth in him as a playmaker that I thought we would see at this point in his career. He's not bad. I just don't think he's gotten much better. And because of his size, it's not like he's all of a sudden going to be an amazing. He's a solid shooter. I don't think he's got
distributor for sure.
Yeah. I don't think his playmaking has gotten any better. I think his shot making is about what it was when he came into the league. He was a good shooter coming into the league, but you know how it is. The longer you're in the league, if you don't show growth, it's like anything else. If it doesn't grow, it's going to eventually wither away and not be of value. And that's my concern with Payton. I think he's a good player. I don't think he's growing the kind of way that you would think someone who's been in this system would grow. And the Celtics, they're not the least bit hesitant to kick you to the curb if they don't think you're growing. I mean, they remember the distance. Yeah, I mean, they drafted a guy at your position who's bigger than you. And if we're being honest, I mean, how often do you get to draft a 5-star recruit in the NBA in the second round 1 year into college?
Right.
There's a reason why he was that highly thought of coming out of high school, and you were able to get him with like a second round pick, which again,
he's a project, but I mean, a couple of years from now, who knows? Or a year from now.
Right. So and if he's able to become more of a shot maker in the next year or so, and he has good playmaking skills, which I think he does, Payton becomes somewhat expendable. And I hate to put it that way because I think he's a solid NBA player, and I think he's going to be in the NBA for a long time.
He's a role in some fashion.
I just don't know if he's going to be here, because the way that they're starting to stockpile this roster, and the fact is, I don't think he's gotten much better since he got here.
Right. Real quick, circling back to Hauser, Bobby Manning, who is also at the Garden and will be joining us at some point. It looks like he was in the interview room with Hauser, and they must have asked Hauser a question on C's confidence in him, and he says, "You never want to see one of your teammates like Gallinari go down, but it's definitely next man up mentality." So that's a good attitude for him to have, and we can see it out there. He looks aggressive out there on the court. He's taking his shots. He looks confident, and there's no reason to believe the shot's not going to fall. It's been falling at like you mentioned a pretty ridiculous clip right now. So. Speaking of Bobby, I think he's going to be joining us very shortly. Before he does, we want to talk to you guys about one of our favorite sponsors, especially one of my favorite sponsors, Calm. You guys want to hit up calm.com/garden. We'll give you 40% off a Calm premium subscription. I have the app. Sherrod has the app. Everybody on the show has the app. This app can change your life. It can clear your mind. It can put you in the right state of mind, starting your day, ending your day. However you want to use it, whenever you want to use it. It's just one of those things it's one of those apps that you can really benefit from personally. Every day we hear about how morning rituals can change our day. But have you ever thought about your evening rituals? Allowing ourselves transition to wind down both our devices and our minds in the evening allows us to stop our racing thoughts and drift off into sleep naturally, Sherrod. Power your day by powering off at night. And that's one of the good things that Calm can do for you. So we've been partnering with Calm for a while. They're one of our good friends. And again, if you go over to calm.com/garden, you get 40% off the subscription. That's a great deal. And it's worth it. Even if you didn't have the deal, it'd still be worth it. But 40% off is awesome. It's a monthly subscription. You can cancel it anytime. I don't know why you would. Certainly, I haven't. So for listeners to the show, Calm is offering an exclusive offer, 40% off Calm premium subscription. That's calm.com/garden. Go to calm.com/garden for 40% off. And we will probably shout them out a little bit later in the show, but I wanted to get that out there now. It's going to be one of those seasons, folks. A lot of ups, a lot of downs, players coming in and out of the lineups. Your emotions are going to be all over the place. You're going to want to have Calm on speed dial, all right? You're going to want to be blasting Calm around your surround sound speakers after a game like tonight. If it was a regular season game, I would be injecting Calm into my veins because it was just a frustrating one. But you can't put too much stock into it. Again, there's a lot of positives to take out of it. We already talked about a lot of them at the top. We haven't mentioned one guy, and he's going to be important this season because of the injury to Rob Williams. What do you like out of Al Horford so far in the first couple of games, Sherrod? And are you confident that the Al Horford we saw last season, are we going to get that Al Horford again this season? You're muted. You're muted, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think we will get something close to the Al Horford that we've had in the past. But, with each passing year, I mean, obviously it's somewhat diminishing returns when you talk about Al, but I still think he's got enough in the tank to help this team. I thought tonight he was solid in the minutes he played. I think he had like 8.6 rebounds, something like that in about 20, 25 minutes. And that's a solid night for Al. In fact, that's probably minutes-wise where they would ideally like to have him throughout the regular season. For me, and I think for most of the Celtics, the key with Al is just to manage him throughout the regular season and ramp it up come playoff time. Because to me, there was absolutely no doubt playoff Al was much better than regular season Al. And that's what you want from your veterans. Yeah. That's exactly what you want from your veterans. And so
26 minutes tonight. I mean, that's right in that sweet spot area. I mean, they're going to have to play, are they going to be going a lot smaller now because of the fact that they don't have Rob out there? Are they going to go with more of a lineup that we saw tonight? Or are they just kind of waiting for, a couple of bigs to emerge, whether it's Cornette or whoever it may be? I'm not sure what you're thinking about how they're going to start things off in this game.
I think they got to go. I think they're going to consistently go with a smaller lineup where you'll have like a Derrick White with that first group. And you'll just go with Tatum, Grant Williams, Fiondu is a possibility. Get some minutes.
Oh, God.
Maybe.
Come on.
Noah.
Yeah, can we talk about Noah for a second? There's some people that are wondering why he only got 2 minutes. He went in there. He looked pretty good in those 2 minutes, and then they sat him. Is he a player that they kind of already know what he gives them, sort of thing? I mean, is he?
I think there's a lot of that. With his minutes. He's not. I don't anticipate. I figured he would have one shot to really kind of show what he can do, and he did that in that first game. It looked great. Looked really, really good. And he hasn't really played much since then, and that's okay because you know what you're dealing with. In the couple minutes he was out there, I mean, he really looked like a man among boys out there. He just made some plays at the rim that just from a physicality standpoint really jump out at you. And that's what you want from Al, or excuse me, not from Al, but you want from Noah in the grand scheme of things. Get out there, do what you need to do for a couple of minutes, and keep it moving. It'll be interesting to see what they do with their bigs that they decide to keep. Because he's definitely someone who I think has done enough to where, at a minimum, you think long and hard before letting him go.
I know you talked about this on the A-List podcast, but we haven't heard your take on the Blake. I haven't heard your take on the Blake Griffin signing, at least not on the Garden Report. I know he didn't play tonight. I want to know what your thoughts are on Blake. Does he have a role in this team? I mean, I imagine he does to some extent, but what are your thoughts on Blake? You've been following him, his career for a long time. You know a lot about what he gives teams. So hit us with it.
Well, Blake this is a hard one for me because, for most of his career, I've been a big fan of his game. I love the fact that he went from a guy that could do nothing but dunk to a guy that can face the basket, a guy can shoot threes, a guy that can do a lot of the things that really showcase the all-around ability to impact games. But that's Blake of the past. That is not the Blake that the Celtics have. I'm struggling with the images that I had from that series against Brooklyn last year, where Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown and pretty much anyone in a Celtics jersey went at Blake like he stole their lunch money when they were in the 5th grade and he was in the 10th.
Hey,
They went at
easy. Blake was
I know,
playing with
Jim,
heart. He was the only one on that team playing with heart in that series by the end of it.
and that's the thing I like. I love the fact that even though that team was an absolute train wreck, Blake was still putting in that work, trying to make an impact. But from a physical standpoint, I just didn't think he was very good. But
Right.
the beautiful thing about him with this team is that you don't necessarily need him to be that significantly impactful. You need him to be a good rebounder, which I think he's always going to be a good rebounder, and give you a bucket or two here and there. I wouldn't be surprised by the end of the season if we see him with the starting lineup 10, 12 games this year. Because when Rob comes back, I don't believe Rob will play every single game the rest of the season. Al, with load management, is probably going to miss a game or two here and there, and that's going to be an opportunity for him to slide into that starting lineup. But again, and I hate to sound like a broken record, but you want to have options. And this is another option that you did not have at your disposal. They didn't have a veteran coming off the bench with a resume like Blake Griffin's, who on any given night can go off for 25 and 10. And to me, that's the value of having guys like Blake Griffin on your roster. No matter what state they are currently in as far as their body and as far as their ability to impact games, on any given night, he can go out and drop 25 and 10, and no one will be shocked. Because
I might be a little.
I wouldn't. I don't know. I wouldn't think about it though. I mean, when you've scored as many points as he has, you're telling me he can absolutely do it. And let me put it this way: it might be a surprise, but definitely should not be shocking. How's that? Does that make
okay? I'll give you that. Yeah, I mean, if he gets again, he's got to get the opportunity. I think would be the biggest thing, right? Is to be able to put those numbers up. But we've seen him do it. If his body can hold up, then I think he's a great addition. We talked about this last year, the lack of, I think, veterans that this Celtics team needed over the last couple of years, really. And they bring in guys like a Blake, like a Brogdon. They brought in Gallinari. Unfortunately, that didn't work out. But they kind of address those needs. And they're going to need that leadership more than ever, right? Because of the whole situation with the coach we shall not name, who's not currently coaching. There's a lot of up and downs with this team, and they're going to need players to step up and be more than just players, right? They're going to need to be veterans. They're going to need to be leaders on the court, off the court. They're going to need to do the right thing, say the right thing, go to bed early, eat the right thing, right? And really focus on basketball. And I think that's a player who can do that. So, that being said, another player who can do all those things, Bobby Manning is in the building. Bobby, can you hear us?
Yep, I got you. You got me.
Oh, we got you too. Awesome. How's it going, buddy?
Good. Another good night for the team here, I thought. They're pretty much hitting the ground running, I feel like. Have to love the ball movement. Have to love the free-flowing offense, the pace. This almost feels like, and I know we saw them hit their stride offensively at times last year, but they look fluid. They really do through these first 2 games here in a way that, double big didn't always allow them to. And some of the stagnation that we saw through playing through Tatum and Brown frustrated us at times. Turnovers aside, these first 2 games, I thought they've looked awesome and versatile and just a little bit more fast-paced than last year. And you're almost starting to see Joe Mazzulla's own imprint on this team, I feel like. Some of it's because Rob's out, right? But overall, you have to be pretty impressed, I think, with where this team's at, given what happened to start training camp, given that their new head coach is stepping up from the 3rd spot on the bench or wherever he was behind the bench. And you have a lot of players coming back, some new players getting integrated, and it all just looks pretty smooth to me, which is really encouraging.
Okay, yeah, sure, I'd go.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, that's typically what happens when you add veterans who are coming in with the right attitude. Not veterans who are coming in to expect to play 20, 30, 40 minutes, but veterans who are just like, just tell me what you need, coach, and I'm going to make it happen. You look at Brogdon. I mean, Brogdon has shown the ability to be an efficient scorer on multiple levels. He led Indiana in scoring, I think like 2 out of 3 years or something like that. So it's not like he can't score. And he's not like he can't do it efficiently, because remember, it wasn't that long ago where he had a 50, 40, 90 season, something that is extremely difficult to do in the NBA, shooting better than 50% from the field and 40 from three-point range and 90 from the free throw line. So offensively, he can get buckets and he can get them efficiently, but clearly he's been around these guys long enough to realize my greatest gift to this team is my playmaking. I can get Jalen and Jason and Al and anyone else on the floor, Sam Hauser, you name them, I can get them the ball where they can either score in that position or take a couple dribbles to get an even better spot to score from. And he's done that consistently through these first couple of games, and I anticipate we'll see him more in playmaking mode than we've seen him in some of his other stops before he got to Boston. And that's a great, again, that's what a veteran will do. A veteran will figure out what the hell they need to do to help the team win. And Brogdon has clearly figured that out early on.
And he said the right things in training camp. We heard that he was going to do this, right? And to see him put into action right away is super encouraging. I thought one of my favorite plays tonight, we'll talk a little Tatum too, I'm sure, here. Tatum's struggling early, right? He's missing all those threes. I know you didn't like the shot selection, Sherrod. Probably getting a little frustrated with himself. And Brogdon has this great lane for a bucket on the fast break and just kind of throws it up over his head for Tatum to get an easy dunk. And I think he ended up scoring like 3 straight, 10 the second quarter from there. So the way that they settled Tatum down, I thought was encouraging here too, because he was really struggling early. They got him some good looks inside. And I love that about this offense so far, is that you have some other guys handling the ball at the top and letting Tatum play closer to the basket, getting him easier looks. He's going to have nights. We saw it last year where his shot just isn't there. And it was for much of early last season that we didn't see him shoot well at all. If you can get him good looks at the basket, free lanes, mismatches, that's going to lead to a night like this where 6 of 16, it's not great. This isn't what you want or expect from Tatum, but it ends up being a solid night instead of a bad night. So I thought, supported him well here.
Yeah, Sherrod had a similar take on that. I think, talking about Tatum being able to do other things when the shot's falling. We all agree Tatum can't go over 7 every night from 3 or anything close to that. They're obviously leaning on him to lead the team in scoring. Whether or not that happens every night, of course it won't, because you've got guys like Jaylen Brown who can more than fill that role when needed. But you want to have Tatum. Obviously, 18 points is far below what he's going to average this season. But it's the preseason, and like you said, Bobby, they're working out the kinks. The shot selection tonight was one that I'm sure he'll watch the film back, or Missoula will be clipping the highlights and the lowlights, and these are the times that you learn, right? So you move into the next game and you maybe think a little bit more about some of those shots, but probably maybe forcing a couple of things, trying to get that shot down early. You don't want to start the season on a cold streak. So again, I don't think the end result really mattered a whole much here when we talk about the play overall of the team in the first half. Bobby, anything, any player, anything stand out to you in this game?
How can we not go to Sam? And I know John wanted to dig deep on this too.
Yeah.
But we know the Garden's gonna love this guy. They were on their feet every time he shot, and regardless of who it is, I get the excitement here. I get the Celtics excitement now. And I see some real growth from him. And I was keeping an eye on some of the tape from last year and things he did up in Maine, because we didn't see a lot of him, right? He didn't even really get a chance on last year's roster. And for him to come out, and we know how hard it is to come off the bench and shoot and produce with just a couple looks, right? He's just nailing them. And we've seen him do this every time he comes off the bench for garbage time or whatever it is, a couple minutes here or there. He just gets the ball, fires, and makes it. And it's unreal. And we've seen some great shooters come up, not so much on this team, but around the league. And he looks like he's a legit prospect. They're going to get him open looks. He's open pretty much on all of these. And for him to give you the little quick rotation where he can extend, let's say the starters give you a 5-point lead to a 10, 12, 14-point lead with a couple big shots. That's basically what he's done through these first 2 preseason games here. And they find places to hide him defensively. I don't feel like he's going to have a significant role on the defensive end, but if the other team has a guy who's just going to be shooting threes, standing at the line, he can guard that guy and he can rotate a little bit. And they're not switching as much to start this year. So I think that's conducive to his success too, is not having to switch on the guards or big men and stuff like that. This is super encouraging.
What did he say after the game? Because you were in there, I think, in the interview, correct?
Yeah, he talked a little bit about how he's using the same mechanics, not too many adjustments growing into the success here. Like he's just leaning on the same release he always had. He's got the Virginia connection with Brogdon, so maybe that's a little something that's helping them connect often there. But overall, they're stressing some defensive principles. He's getting them. They feel comfortable playing him. And he's got to be super confident right now, the way he's shooting. 9 of 11 to start his preseason here with this team from 3. That's just ridiculous. I mean, we see guys get open looks. Would Justin Jackson have like 3 great open looks down the stretch and miss?
Don't start. Don't.
For Hauser,
we're not talking about Justin Jackson.
We're not talking about
for Hauser. Yes,
for his benefit, we're not going to talk about
exactly.
They're open shots. Oh no, I didn't know it was that bad.
Oh, we did. We did.
But
you shouldn't have. You really shouldn't
no,
have.
come on.
Get
that
off
banner.
Get that out.
Back to Hauser.
Man's trying to get a job here.
We're focusing on the positive.
Well, here's the thing about Hauser, though. The cool thing about Hauser is that he's not settling. And by that, I simply mean he's not just walking out there and say, I'm a three-point shooter, so I'm going to just take threes. He's putting the ball on the floor. He's actually, moving the ball when the shot isn't there directly. He's playing like an all-around good player, and opportunities are going to come. I mean, the big thing that he does is that he puts opponents in a pick-your-poison scenario. You either play him straight up, which gives Jalen and Jason more opportunities and the other scorers to attack, but if you don't respect him and you play off him, like Toronto did in the first half, I thought, he's going to make you pay. And that's his ability to create space for himself and others. Again, that's what the really good shooters do, but the great ones are able to do that and recognize opportunities to get easy buckets, because three-point shot is an easy shot, but guess what? A layup is an even easier shot. And Hauser is recognizing, if I can put the ball on the floor a little bit better, get a little bit closer to the basket, defenses are going to be so drawn into me. I'm going to have opportunities to beat guys off the dribble, and I don't need to be Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum and do that. I can just be Sam Hauser and be effective. And that's, I think, what we've seen so far. How much will we see once the games really count? That remains to be seen.
Who's Duncan Robinson? He's trying to prove
I'm
that he's
tell
not
you now,
Duncan
though.
Robinson. He's trying to prove that he's
better.
Not Duncan Robinson. That's what I'm saying.
He's a better scorer than Duncan. Duncan,
That's
I think,
right.
is a better. Duncan, I believe, is a better shooter than Sam. But Sam is a better scorer because Sam didn't have to, basically get his ass cooked before he realized I need to be more than just a three-point shooter. Duncan was a defensive liability every time he got on the floor.
That's kind of what we heard Hauser would have been, but it doesn't. You don't see that right now.
And I think part of that's because I think that was part of the reason why they didn't play Sam much last year. I don't think defensively he was ready to be solid at that end of the floor and be great shooting the ball. I think this year he is ready for that.
And they don't have to play him every night. If there's a team like the Warriors where it's going to be super hard for him to guard, he can use less of them that night. And if there's a team like Toronto here that's not going to pick you apart with shooting, I think he outshot Toronto from 3 himself here. So you can use him in a matchup like that. They can play some drop defense and just do little things to help hide him. He's not a disaster defensively. Like, he can hold his own. He's 6'8". He's got length. We've seen him make some plays on that end to start this game, and that's their identity. So they're going to want guys on the floor who can defend, but you have to find some balance, and I think they've done a really good job of that so far. To your point, Sherrod, super surprising seeing all this cutting from him. Turnaround jumpers in the post. He hit a runner to tie this game and take the lead and one late. So there's definitely more in his bag. I think people are surprised to see than just threes. He has a nice post-up game. He has kind of a lot of the tools Gallinari had. And I'm not saying he's Gallinari, but he has some of the same tools if you look at their game side by side. Now, he's going to lean more in on that three-point shot because that's his job here. But nice to see him in the preseason where you want to try different stuff, right? Do those different things and succeed. Those shots inside the arc late were great, I thought.
Yeah, and Bobby, I don't think they're going to worry as much about hiding him as I think we were anticipating, because as long as he is doing the great stuff offensively as far as spacing the floor for himself and the other guys, that his best defense is going to be great offense, I believe. Not only in terms of his own shot making, but also the shots that he's able to help create for his teammates when he's on the floor. And defensively, he's not as bad as I thought. I mean, to be honest with you, I mean, I'm looking at the guys that he's being asked to defend. Remember, when he's on the floor, chances are he's probably going to be guarding maybe at best the third best scorer for the opponent. And that player will most likely have some type of limitations, whether it's they can't dribble well or they can't shoot. But he's going to have an opportunity to be on the floor because who he's defending probably won't be the best offensive threat out there. And if teams start making it a point of trying to to go at him specifically, if I'm the Celtics and I have my defense, I don't mind your third option trying to be your number one option. In fact, I would try to draw you into doing that because that's in the long run that is going to work out to your advantage because you're going to realize really quick that Sam is not nearly as turnstile easy pass defensively as some other guys, who are known as snipers.
A little bit more.
We'll see. We know guys get hunted in the regular season, so I want to see a little bit more against some better teams. I have a lot of respect for Toronto, but not offensively. And Charlotte, I thought, was just terrible on Sunday. So you'll see those same teams again, of course, to rotate out the preseason here. But Philly, game one, that's a good test. Miami, even Orlando's got some guys that can score and be a threat. So seeing him in those early regular season games, I'm excited for. And he's going to play, right? There's no doubt about it. You see a guy do this in the preseason. He has earned his rotation spot, hasn't he?
I think so. I think he has. And again, the one thing that he's consistently done in the first couple games is knock down open shots. And those open shots are going to be there once the regular season starts because of the spacing concerns that other teams have when you have a Jaylen Brown and a Jason Tatum, and Al Horford who has the inside-outside game.
That was something Jaylen said in the locker room tonight. The spacing's great. Our spacing's the biggest reason we're getting the offensive output we are right now. And Hauser's certainly part of that. You mentioned Brogdon's role in that. They have a lot of floor spacing and shooting on the floor in these lineups.
Hauser, perhaps a little bit more athletic than people gave him credit for, which leads us to our other sponsor of the night, Athletic Greens. Guys, Athletic Greens has been a great sponsor for us, good friends of the show, and they are now offering everybody here a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase of Athletic Greens. Go to athleticgreens.com/garden. Everybody on this show uses Athletic Greens. I've been using it for a couple months now. Bobby's dipping out for a second, but he'll be back. I've been using it for a couple months now. I think, Sherrod, you have as well. Looking like you've been using it, Sherrod. Looking good over there. The thing I love about Athletic Greens is that it's just your one-stop shop, 75 vitamins, minerals, nutrients, everything you need to get your day going. It's the first thing I take every morning when I wake up, and it just kind of gives you that little pep, that little boost. It gives you the nutrients that you need to sort of get you through the long day. I mean, Sherrod's putting a late one in tonight, and it's going to be an early rise tomorrow, right? It's the grind of the season is here, Sherrod.
And the taste is what gets me. I mean, it's not nearly as chalky or bitter as a lot of these type of products, and for me that's huge.
Right.
I know it works, but for it to work and taste pretty good.
Yeah, you don't have to hold your nose every morning when you take it. Yeah,
right.
It's not like that beet juice and all that other crap that they get you mixing all these vegetables together. No, this is a lot different. It's lifestyle friendly, whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free. Contains less than 1 gram of sugar, no GMOs, no nasty chemicals or artificial anything. It supports better sleep quality and recovery, supports mental clarity. We were talking about that earlier on. And it supports gut health too. It's the one thing with the best things. Athletic Greens uses the best of the best products based on the latest science with constant product iterations and third-party testing. Was not expecting that word in there. And it costs less than $3 a day, which is less than a cup of coffee, right? And coffee's not doing a whole lot for you guys. Let's be honest. Coffee might sound like a good idea, but really it's just making you more like anxious. You know what I mean? That's all it's doing. It's just giving you anxiety. Athletic Greens actually gives you nutrients and the health that you're looking for. So Give it a shot. It's cheaper than all the different supplements that also you could buy. You show up to the vitamin. I'm not going to name any names. You show up to a place that sells vitamins and you look at down the aisle and you're just overwhelmed by all the products they lift you. This is just everything that you need in one. So again, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrients. It's just one scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/garden. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/garden to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. And as an added bonus to that, if you do sign up for athleticgreens.com, take a picture of your receipt, send a DM of the receipt to John Zannis on Twitter. I forget his handle. I think it's John_Zannis or something like that. You guys will follow him by now. Send a picture of your receipt and you will get a free phenomenal t-shirt. There it is, guys. Phenomenal t-shirt. This is the very first Garden Report t-shirt that we are going to be selling. So not only is it pretty stylish, it's one of the more popular coined phrases on the show. It's going to become an instant collector's item. So I think it's well worth it just for the shirt alone, but you're actually getting an unbelievable product in Athletic Greens. So go ahead and take a picture of that receipt, send it over to John, and he will set you up. He will mail you the shirt. We have all different sizes, so we're not going to just give you the double XL and make you swim in it or anything like that. Anyways, that's Athletic Greens. Thank you to them, guys, and we do appreciate any support you guys can give us. It allows us to keep doing this show. It's going to be a long season. It's going to be a fun season, and we hope that Athletic Greens will be hanging out with us throughout the course of it. Sherrod, until Bobby, I don't know if Bobby's done for the day or what his deal is, but it's just me and you again. So you got any you got any thing that you haven't hit on yet that's grinding your gears or anything?
I mean, we've hit on all the main, sexy topics. I mean, Sam Hauser, Tatum finding ways to contribute when the buckets aren't going. Jaylen Brown is looking more of a go-to player that not only is Jaylen going to Jaylen, but his teammates are now looking like they're going to Jaylen. Right. Malcolm Brogdon, Al Horford. That's pretty much it. I mean, hopefully we'll get some type of update in the near future on Robert Williams and just see where he's at. I'm curious about that.
We do need that. There was something interesting tonight that came out on Twitter that has nothing to do with the Celtics, but a potential, competitor of the Celtics down the way here. It sounds like Draymond Green and Jordan Poole got into it today at practice or whatnot, and there was
I can see that
physical altercation where the Warriors are now considering disciplinary action against Draymond Green. So apparently Draymond, and I'm just going based on, what Twitter's coming out on Twitter here. But, Shams is reporting there was a physical altercation at Warriors practice. What's the other thing? Chest-to-chest interaction with Jordan Poole escalated. Green forcefully struck Poole, and both needed to be separated swiftly. So a little trouble in paradise to start the season over there in Golden State.
Well, hopefully for them, it won't be like Bobby Portis, Nikola Mirotic 2.0, because that did not end well really for either guy. I mean, but Draymond,
that's not leadership quality though, Draymond. Come on, man. You can want to hit somebody, but as soon as you do, that's kind of crossing the line.
Yeah, I mean, there's ways that you can motivate your teammates and get under their skin and try to push them to be better. But you don't physically push them to get better. Right. There's the literal sense, and then there's the figurative sense, and then he might have taken it a little too literally, needing to push Jordan. But Draymond's going to be fine. I mean, it's to me, these type of skirmishes have to happen to a team like Golden State, because when you look at all the breaks that they seem to get without really necessarily playing their way into those breaks, shit like that, stuff like this is supposed to happen.
Right.
It's supposed to happen. I mean, think about the NBA Finals. I mean, how different would that have been if Jason Tatum didn't have health issues? And you look at when they had their first title run, every team they played in the playoffs was missing at least one starter. I mean, how often does that happen where you make a title run and every team you play is missing one starter for most or all of that series? So So I mean, No, it doesn't happen enough. So yeah, I mean, Draymond getting into it with Pool Boy, I'm good with that.
Hey,
I'm
get it
good
out
with
of the
that.
way now, right? You don't want it to happen
Exactly.
middle of the season
No.
or in the playoffs. So, and like you said,
I guess the only interesting thing about that is you do kind of have three Warriors competing for a contract there, right? And Green and Poole are two of them. Not that motivates that, but that is kind of a dynamic on the Warriors this year that's going to be interesting. It's almost known going into this year that one of Poole, Wiggins, or Green probably isn't going to be back next year, which, I mean, every team has free agents every year, but those were three big-time guys who are part of that core out there. And again, this might have had nothing to do with that at all, but that is something I've had my eyes on with the Warriors this year, is them pretty much forecasting that we might not have money for everybody at the end of this.
One additional.
Yeah.
Sorry, Sherrod, what you got?
No, go ahead, Jimmy.
I was just one additional tweet that Chris B. Haynes tweeted. Draymond Green was apologetic in aftermath of the altercation with Jordan Poole, but there was a buildup stemming from teammates noticing a change in Poole's behavior throughout camp, with the guard on the verge of securing a lucrative extension. Now, I don't know who's giving him that info, what side's giving what, I mean, but if Green's kind of speaking for the rest of the team there, then maybe Poole did need a little shove and say, hey, you're still part of this team here. You're not a free agent yet. I don't know if that's kind of what the message there was, but at least based on Haynes' tweet, it sounds like it was something along those lines. So maybe Bobby's kind of onto something there with the free agency looming.
Yeah, and this team sort of has two eras to it, right? You get your Green, Curry, Clay era, and then you get your Poole, Wiggins future with all the young guys there. And they're certainly going to keep Poole. You see from that report there that he's on the verge of an extension, pretty much, you would think, because he's the young, up-and-coming core piece on this team. And, Wiggins is sort of that middle guy, right? Like, he was great last year, but he's Wiggins. You kind of know who he is. And then Green's the wild card because he's been so good for you for so long. But now he wants, I don't know, 160 million, something in that ballpark. Entering his 30s, starting to decline a little bit, I think. So he's the toughest contract call out of all of these guys because he's been a staple through all your championships. He's one of your
hard decision that they're going to have to make.
But his best days are probably behind them, right?
Yeah. I don't know. I think me and Sherrod have touched up on a lot about this game, Bobby. I know there's probably a few things that you might want to hit on before we go. Anything? You had a bit of a bold prediction. I don't think you're putting it in stone yet, but it was still an interesting point you made, talking about Jaylen Brown. Do you want to expand upon that at all?
I just wonder if there's going to be a case that Brown, more than we've seen in the past. I'm not going to put the boldest prediction in stone yet, but let me craft it this way to start. He's going to get a lot of looks playing off some of these other creators on this team this year, and we've already seen him just get off to this insanely efficient start, 9 of 14 tonight, 8 of 11 in the first game. And sometimes we see Tatum have to take on more of a facilitator role, passing out of doubles and stuff. So, yeah, the volume's always going to be there for Tatum, and it works in his favor. But I wonder if points per game is closer between these two than you would imagine it to be, just because of how easy it's going to be for Brown to score as a finisher, playing closer to the basket, getting open threes, all the different stuff we've seen him do through 2 preseason games here. Is it possible that Brown could maybe even get more points per game this year than Tatum?
It's possible.
Just based off how this team
if Tatum
functions.
shoots like he did tonight, then it's very possible.
Yeah, if Tatum's more focused on passing, and again, everybody has their role. So, yeah, I think it's possible. I think it's and this doesn't matter. This is just something for us to talk about. But based on how their roles look early on, it's going to be much easier for Brown to score playing off all these facilitators than Tatum is. But one other point from the post game, we talked to Jaylen a little bit about practice the other day. He was really going through some pick and roll motions with Kevin Gelly, our friend Kevin Gelly.
Kevin Gelly, of course.
He still maintains I'm a ball handler. Like, that's what I see myself as. I'm going to be a creator in this league. I'm going to be a guy who works on the ball. And that was a big thing for Ime last year. We've had our thoughts about that. And he certainly has made efforts to get better in that role. But he personally still looks at himself and says, I want the ball in my hands some amount of time on this roster. So something to keep an eye on.
He's got to improve in that department. He wants the ball more. I think we're gonna call it, guys. It's close to an hour today. Bobby, anything? You're there. Sherrod, you're there. Anything that maybe the fans at home didn't notice or didn't get the same view of tonight? Is the Garden? I know it's preseason, but is there an excitement around the start of this season that you guys can tell?
When Sam Hauser's making plays, hell yeah.
Yeah,
I guess.
Standing.
Yeah.
Guess what?
I wish we could have seen Blake tonight. I know you guys opened the show with that. I don't know why he didn't play a second, but I will say, I thought I heard you guys when I came in talking a little bit about Blake. But yeah,
you were about 30 minutes into the show.
They said, or Joe Mazzulla said that they were either going to play Blake tonight or Friday, and they say Blake's in good shape. He's ready to go. It was 10 a.m. this morning, so take it for what you will. But he was working with some of the second team guys, the deep training camp tryout guys, do a scrimmage this morning, and he's shaking some rust off for sure. So maybe just didn't feel quite ready yet to get out there, and maybe we'll see it on Friday. But yeah, lots of misses, and yeah, it wasn't pretty this morning, but that's shoot around, I guess.
When's the next game?
Friday in Greensboro against the Hornets. So we'll be back in 2 days.
All right. Any last thoughts, Sherrod? Are you good to go? I know you got to get on with it. Yep. All right.
Good to go.
Everyone get a good look at Sherrod and Bobby. They're going to be hanging out with us all season from the Garden. We'll get Josue in the mix too, and John obviously will be manning the show on most nights. I'll be hanging out as well. Sorry to say. I want to thank Athletic Greens, a great sponsor of ours. Don't forget to visit athleticgreens.com/garden for a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. Send that receipt over to John. Get a free phenomenal T-shirt.
Woo, phenomenal.
Bobby, have you gotten one yet?
No, I mean, if I haven't gotten one yet, no one
honestly,
should, right?
John, I don't know if John's hoarding these T-shirts or what. I haven't seen them. I don't have one. You don't have one. We gotta get the shipping out there, but guarantee you guys, if you do make a purchase, you'll get the shirt. So thank you to Athletic Greens for being a good sponsor of ours. And lastly, but surely not least, we want to thank Calm for being another great sponsor of ours. Go to calm.com/garden and receive 40% off a premium subscription. We all use Calm. We all live by it. And again, I think it's going to be an important. Yeah, we sleep by it. A very good point, Bobby. I think it's going to be an important app this season for Celtics fans. So thanks again, everybody, for hanging out with us. We will see you Friday. Thank you to Sherrod. Thank you to Bobby. Peace out, boys.
We out.